Today's webinar is meant to be a quick overview on one specific AdID system topic. There are other recordings of webinars that review the AdID system in depth, and they're located at the link shown on the slide or the webinar section of the AdID website. The purpose of today's webinar is to review how to create multiple codes at one time and how to clone codes. So we'll move right along into the system to start that demo. All right. I'll sign into AdID now. And when you sign into AdID, the first screen that you see may vary. You can set a home page and any other preferences within your user profile, and that's located by going here. This top navigation bar allows you to access the different screens in the AdID system, these menu items here. We're on the dashboard, and the dashboard only shows the most recent 100 created codes across all your groups. And it also shows the prefixes here below if you need to view that information. This codes table here, like I said, only shows 100 codes up at one time, and it's across all the groups that you have access to. So if you're looking for a code and you can't find it on the dashboard, it's most likely because it was created before these 100 codes. So you can go into the groups menu to search for codes. If you're looking for a particular client here, you can also use these search menu items as well. We won't go into it in more detail, but you can search for codes using the advanced code search or the quick search as well. And you can also access hidden groups. They're located here on your dashboard in the side tab under hidden. So a hidden group would be a client that you're no longer working with. So if you ever wanted to view these old codes, you can click on the hidden menu here. In this top navigation bar, there are two separate drop-down menus for groups and accounts. And you may notice that the group and account have similar or exact names. However, you're only going to go into the account to make a purchase. The group houses information about the prefix and any codes that were created. And again, the account is for billing purposes, and you have an account set up for each of your clients. You can also access accounts from the dashboard. On the right-hand side here, you can also access groups as well. Now we're going to go into the account to make a purchase before we move on to creating multiple codes at one time. So I'll click on my account menu here and click on the account. And again, you can access this top navigation bar at any time throughout anytime you're in the AdID system. So on the account menu here, this gives you a summary of the credits available, the credits that were used. And in order to create codes, credits must be purchased. So as it says in this screen here, 1 credit equals $1. And you can pay for a code at the end of the code creation process or make a purchase to the account before. And we do suggest making that purchase before creating codes. That way you can pay for multiple codes in one step and receive a single invoice. And we'll go over that today. If you're not sure how much you need to purchase, you can use the calculator feature that's located in the Account Actions sidebar menu here. There's also a calculator on the purchase screen, so you can make a purchase either by clicking this large blue purchase credit buttons. It's also available here in the account menu. They will lead you to the same place. And again, there's that calculator feature on the purchase screen if you needed to make that. And we'll enter the amount for which you want to purchase today. I'm going to purchase 8 codes for video and audio at $30 each. So I'll enter that amount here. And then you want to choose your payment method of either purchase order or credit card. And when selecting the purchase order option, the PO number field is here. You can enter a PO number and receive an invoice for the total amount. If your company does not require a PO on invoices for payment, You can enter anything in this field, like the job number or the date. Go ahead and put that in. And below here, you just want to verify that this billing information is correct. If you do end up making changes on this screen, it's important to mention that the invoice will still be emailed to the invoice recipient that's on file, and only an account administrator can edit the email recipient to receive invoices and monthly statements. So if that needs to change, you can contact the customer relations team and we can help you with next steps. Just let us know. And the invoice note field allows you to enter a note about the purchase. This will show on the invoice created for this particular purchase that I'm making today. And once the purchase is confirmed, which we'll click on next, and you'll see we're brought to the confirmation page here. Everything looks good. I'll confirm my purchase. And now that we've confirmed that purchase, the credits are available immediately in the account, and we can create our codes. A copy of the invoice, or if you used a credit card, the credit card receipt will be emailed to the invoice recipient that same evening. So whoever set up to receive those invoices will get a copy via email that evening. So we'll move on to creating multiple codes now, and to get to the menu, you click on Create at the top of the page and create a new AdID code. We'll choose our group and our prefix, and then the account populates. The account shows how many credits are available and the estimated number of codes that can be created. And since we just made the purchase right before this, there are enough credits in the account. So when I submit this form, my codes will be created and the credits will be deducted from the balance. If you didn't make the purchase beforehand and there's not enough credits in the account, you will be sent to the payment screen to enter a purchase order or credit card after you submit this information on the screen. So codes won't be generated until you make that purchase. I want to mention that if the prefix that you selected is set up with one of the custom formats, there will be an additional field to enter the custom 4 or 7 characters that follow that prefix. And right below here are the 2 options for creating multiple codes at one time. This first option here allows you to enter a number for how many codes you'd like to create at one time, and you can create up to 100 codes. When using this feature, all the data will be the same for all codes, and you will need to make edits afterwards if anything needs to change. So let's say I am going to create 3 codes for radio. I'll put in the number 3 and press enter, or I'll just click out of the box on my keyboard. And then I'll just move on to the slate and complete the required fields that are here. As I stated before, the data is going to be the same for all 3 of my codes, and edits will need to be made afterwards if anything needs to change. So this section here is called the slate. It contains the required fields, which are marked with red asterisks. Optional fields are listed below, as well as on the side here, like an optional field here, the external access tab, if you wanted to share this particular code information with a particular vendor. That's what the optional fields include. I'll select my media type. Since I said I'm creating codes for radio, audio is my media type option. The medium here populates with radio all, and that is just the most common selection that have been made by AdID users in the past. If you wanted to click on show all mediums, you can, and see here that there's other options to choose from if you want to be more specific. Depending on how this prefix was set up, the parent advertiser brand and product may auto-populate, and that saves time when you're creating codes. If it's not pre-populated, it is a required field, so you will need to fill something in here. You can see that the product list also has other as an option in case the particular product you need to create a code for isn't listed here. So I do want to mention that if you select other, it is a required field and you will need to list something in this field here. We do have this checkbox here, and that request additions to the AdID corporate hierarchy. And what that means is if you find yourself selecting other and entering in a product or typing it in, you can send us an email. We'll get an email if you check this box and consider that product that you're entering and email you to confirm when it's been added into the list. And we may email you back for more information or just get clarification on the product you're entering. So like I said, if you're entering in other here, feel free to check this box so we can review that product you're always manually typing in. In this case, I'm just going to select one of my products here, and then my ad title. Select our length, so these are populated in seconds. Again, there's other at the bottom and tagged as well. And my agency name and language, these both populate. The agency name will populate based on the company name in your user profile. Language defaults to English, other options if needed. And the code record type. So this defaults to original. There is another option in this field for derivative. Derivative can be used to link an AdID code for an original spot. So a time you'd want to choose derivative and link AdID codes together is if you're creating like a revision of an ad or a replacement. You can select that information here. In this case, I'm going to keep all 3 codes that I'm creating as original. And again, there are these optional fields below. If you want to fill them in, feel free. There's also a notes section here in case any of these fields did not capture what you're trying to enter in. You can list it in the notes section. And so once you've completed all the required fields and any other fields you want to fill in, you can click on Submit. And because the account had enough credits for the 3 codes have been created. We're brought to the group home page here where you'll see a list of codes that were created in this particular group. My green message up here just lets me know that the $90 transaction was submitted and the 3 AdID codes are created. They do have red asterisks next to them. That's just to indicate these are the newly created codes that were just entered in. And because these 3 codes have the same information, you will need to make edits to the codes if any details should change, like the ad title or the length. And there are 2 ways to edit the code information. If you need to make quick edits to multiple codes at one time, like changing the ad title, you can check the box next to each code. And in this Actions menu here within the table, there's an Edit button. On this next screen, you can make quick changes by typing into the field here and just either clicking out of the field or pressing Enter or Return on your keyboard. Once I do this, my change is saved and I don't have to press Save anywhere else. Everything will be saved automatically. I'm also changing the lengths. For this as well. And so my changes have been made. So when editing multiple codes at one time, like we're doing now, you can see the fields are limited to the ones that you see on this page here. So if you need to edit more detailed information like the product or change the medium, you can go to the codes table and edit each code individually. So you can get to the codes table one of 2 ways. You can either click on the breadcrumbs from this item here, or you can click on the groups menu and click on the group name here. I don't suggest clicking on back. If you click on the back button, it will take you back to the previous screen, so you won't see the changes that you just made here. So I always try to tell people don't use the back button if you can. Always use either the breadcrumbs or just use the top navigation bar. So now we're back in the group, and we'll look at editing a single code in more detail. So to edit a single code in more detail, all you need to do is click on the code. And once you click on the code on the right-hand side here under Code Actions, there's an Edit option. And you can see here, now I'm able to edit all those fields for the most part here. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the code creation screen to review the other multiple code creation option. So again, create a new add ID code. Select our group. And this information populates again. So the other option on this field is creating codes by varying fields. So once you open up this box here and check off this yes menu item, this allows you to create multiple codes at one time and enter in various ad titles, versions, lengths, and/or campaigns for up to 100 codes at a time. If you're using a prefix that's set up with Custom 4 or Custom 7, you will also see an additional box here to enter in those custom characters for those codes. You can enter in one or multiple of these fields here. You don't have to enter in all of them if you don't need to. And if using multiple fields, you will need to enter the same number of items in each field separated with a comma, and make sure to enter those items in correct order. So now we'll go through this. I'm going to create 2 video codes. Both of them have a 30 and a 60 second. So you can enter this information here and create those codes at one time. So we'll enter the titles, each one separated with a comma. And you can see with my commas here, I'm just showing you some variation. You can either put a space after the comma, or you can put no space like I did here. The system will still accept it as its own specific field. One thing I want to mention is make sure there are no commas in your titles or after the last entry, or else the system will think that's its own separate item. So just make sure no commas in the titles or after the last one. And so now, because I've created in this add title section here, I put in both titles because I'm creating a 30 and a 60 for the same spot. So that's why the same title is listed twice. So in my length here, I'm just entering in, again, my information. So what I was saying before about making sure everything's in the same order, title 1 matches with my first length, title 2 matches with my second, and so on. All right. Again, you only want to complete the fields that you want to enter the varying information in. And then once you finish with that, you can move down to the slate. I do want to bring up a few other scenarios that we've seen people use this multi-create for. If you had 3 titles with the same length, you would just enter the 3 separate titles up here, and then you would just enter the length at one time down in the slate below. Another option is if you had a single title but different lengths, you could put in those different lengths up here and then enter the title down here below. So those are just some different variations of how people are using this multi-create feature here. All right, so now I'll move on to my media type, since I'm creating codes for video. Again, with the show all mediums, I'll also select internet video. And I'll select both SD and HD and enter in my other information here. You can see because I entered the add title and length above, they're grayed out here. Again, with all this other required fields that are pre-populated. anything else that you want to enter in. And so once all the required fields are completed and any other optional fields, you can click on Submit. And we can see that the codes are listed here. Here's my 60 for Call Me Later, here's my 30, my 60 for Call Me Now, and my 30 for Call Me Now. So they're all listed here. My green message just lets me know it was successfully submitted. And that's how you create multiple codes with varying fields. Next, we'll review how to clone a code. So cloning a code allows you to create a new code using data from an existing code, and this saves so much time. I'm a huge fan of this feature. So I will find my code. I'll go into my group that I want to look for my code in. And you can see I'm in a new group now. One feature I really like is this filter code. So you can type in part of the title. If I could type it in correctly, there we go. And I can filter this table down. So if you're looking for a code that was created a while ago, or you just don't want to scroll through and try to find the exact one, I always suggest using this filter code. You can also search by part of a code. Basically, any of these items that you see here, you can search by. So I can even search by 03 because this code was created on November 3rd, and I can find my code that I need here. All right, so once you find the code that you want to clone, you can click on the code in blue. Again, on the right-hand side under Code Actions, click on Clone. And we're brought to the code creation screen to create a brand new code, but the fields are populated with information from the code you are cloning. So from the clone screen, you can create up to 100 codes at a time using these two options if you needed to. And right now, all I'm going to do is create a new code because it's a revised title. So because I clicked on clone here, I can just scroll down, and I can also change this media type if I needed to. This one in particular has internet display, but I can change it to video if needed. That's available to you, and you'll be charged for the video code price. All right. I'll add revised. Here, this account has enough money for the code I'm creating. And after you've made any changes, so if you need to change the length, anything like that, I'll just go ahead and select a different one here. And once you've made your changes for the new code, you can click on Submit. And here's my new code here. This just lets me know what was charged because it was internet display. It was $5. That's how much internet display codes cost. So just wanted to point that out. And here's my code. So love clone. It saves a lot of time. There is another way to access the clone if you just select one code at a time. In this Actions menu, you will see Clone is available here. If you select more than one code, you're not going to see Clone. It's only available when you select a single code. When you check off a single code is when you can see the Clone option here. All right. So these are the current multi-create and clone features that are available on the AdID system. We've heard from customers who want to create more than 100 codes at a time. So now that you've seen these features, we would love to get additional feedback. If you generate more than 100 codes or use these features in a certain way, you can send comments to our email address, which is located in the help menu here, cs@ad-id.org. And again, in this help menu, there's link to help instructions as well as our phone number. You can also click on your email address here to sign out if you needed to, or go to your profile where you can see messages that we send regarding webinars or system updates, holiday closings, things like that. And that completes the demonstration. Now we'll go over any questions that you have. Just give me a minute here. I'm just gathering the questions now. Okay. Okay. Getting a request here to go over derivative versus original. So we'll go to our code creation screen. And we'll just click on a code, the same group we were in here. And this code record type, it's the last required field under mandatory fields. It populates as original just by default. If a code is original, that just means it's not the other option in this field, which is derivative. So a time when you'd want to select derivative is if you're creating a revision of an ad or a replacement. You're able to type in the original ad ID code, and the system simply just links those codes together so that you have a record that they're related. We do have these question marks that are available for more information, or you can contact the customer relations team if you have any questions on this particular function or need additional assistance. All right. I think that's all the questions that we have for today. So thank you for joining us. If you need anything or want to provide additional comments, like I said, feel free to email us or give us a call. We'd be happy to help, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for joining.